All right, we're going to jump into, so I have two things to talk about. Well, I have a few things to talk about tonight, but as you know, I went to Bruce Norris's event. If you don't know who Bruce Norris is, I will tell you real quick. Bruce Norris is kind of a legend here in Southern California, and he's pretty well known across the country, actually. He used to do a ton of speaking all over the country, but he ran the Norris Group for years and years and years that were based, actually, their office was like walking distance down the street from here for a long time before he sold the company a couple years ago. And he's most famous for predicting the crash of 2006, 2007. So like when that all happened, he was one of the guys. He wasn't in the movie The Big Short, but he could have been. It sounds like. I wasn't around. I didn't know him back then. So he called that, and then he also, so he did a seminar back then and kind of waved the red flag of like, this is coming, guys. And the people that listened to him and got out probably did pretty well. The people that didn't, maybe they didn't do so well. And then what really, I think, solidified his kind of, because, when you looked at that, you're like, well, he could have just gotten lucky, right? And then years later, so in like 2010, 2011, he looked at the charts again and told everybody, like, buy everything in California because it's going to go to the moon, basically. And he was right about that, too. So the people that then, especially the people that listened to him to sell and then buy everything again, did phenomenally well. The people that just maybe found out about him later and bought a few things, they did well, too. So he's definitely, got a track record for predicting some things, and like anybody that predicts anything, he's not always right. He's had some other predictions that didn't probably go as well as those. And then we also have Chris Thornberg that I'm going to talk about a little bit. And for those of you who don't know who Chris Thornberg is, he's an economist. He used to run, he runs Beacon Management. They're based out of, I think they're here in Riverside. And he used to be a professor emeritus and run the School of Economics at UCR. So, and he is well known in the real estate circles. He does a market update for Lance Martin's market forecast event every single year, which is coming up. I don't know the date, sorry. Do you? March 11th. It's coming up that fast. Oh, crap. I was going to call him to see if he wanted to do it here. I guess I'm a little late. Maybe next year. So, you going? Yeah, right on. Me too. Well, wait, when's March 11th? Next Wednesday. Maybe. No, I'm going to be in Encinitas camping. No, I'm not. Jesus, I can't keep up. All right, maybe I'll go. I thought he usually did it on a Saturday. No? All right, so March 11th. Anyways, Chris Thornberg's usually the keynote speaker at that, and he's I haven't listened to Chris as long as Bruce, but he seems to be a very, very knowledgeable guy as well. He was the one that I wish I did listen to during COVID. I wish I would have listened to him more. He was the one that called literally like as we were all scrambling, and sitting in our pajamas on Zoom wondering what the hell is happening to the world. He was the one saying like this huge drop, like this huge amount of fear and this everything falling off the cliff is going to go like this, and then it's going to go straight back up. And what did it do? It went straight back up. And so that's when I really started paying attention to him, and I've kind of watched him more and more since on that stuff. So, but what we're going to get into is that these are two people that are market predictors that have some wildly differing opinions on where we're going, okay? So, you know what? I should have had my laptop set up here. Oh, well. So we're here. Path A on the top there is Chris's. You know what, LA? Can you grab my laptop out of the? It's in my backpack next to the thing. That way I don't have to turn around and look at these. Hang on one second. Whoa, holy crap. That just jumped ahead a lot. Woo! Is there like a jump 10 slides button on this? Nice. So path A is, Chris on the top there. And normally I could read that thing in the back, but it's bouncing like crazy. So give me a second here. I'm going to get my laptop. Thank you, sir. Well, we're getting a whole new bag of tricks in here, so that won't be a problem anymore shortly. I know, right? I mean, if it was me, I'd be kind of worried about if I own this building, that they're 3 days down. And that's happening. I was like, yeah, I don't know if I'd want that much twisting and pulling on my roof, but they don't seem to be concerned about it. So, anyway, so Chris there's at the top. He's basically calling that we're going to get into this in more detail. So Chris is basically of the opinion that AI is a bubble, kind of like the .com bubble back in the 90s, and that bubble is going to pop eventually. Which is going to cause a foreign capital flight out of the U.S., which is going to coincide with a much larger deficit, spending our trade deficit, and the outcome of that is going to be surging interest rates and inflation. So kind of what we saw towards the end of COVID with them trying to, quantitative ease their way out of things. Bruce, on the other hand, is talking about how AI is maybe not a bubble, and that it's going to basically decimate the labor force here in the next few years. And what's that is going to cause is a COVID-style 15% unemployment rate and a flat GDP for a while. And the outcome of that is that the Fed is going to panic and drop interest rates and do what only the Fed can really do, is drop interest rates to basically save the economy. Those are the two kind of predictions here at the moment. And again, so this is more about kind of Chris's view on it. He thinks the whole AI thing is just smoke and mirrors, that it's completely overblown. That AI is just kind of glorified pencil pusher kind of thing, that it's really just going to maybe some mediocre white collar tasks that could be automated away anyways. And the question, Andy? Yeah. That's a great question. I'm going to have a slide for it. Did you see the slide? Is that why you're asking me? Did I jump ahead to that one? No, it's a great question. So it's coming. It's coming. So for Chris, it's a big capital math equation, and he doesn't really see it coming, or he doesn't really see what Bruce has lined up here. So his thing is that when, let me make sure, and I'm not an economist, so I'm trying to just parlay what he said. This is an hour-long video that he did this on. Is that essentially, if the bubble pops, everybody's scrambling. The people that invest, I don't know how much you guys know about the way the monetary system works, but typically when the U.S. Treasury and the Fed and everything sells these bonds and all these things that fund the government and all of this debt that we keep piling and up and up and up. Is that a lot of times it's sold to foreign countries, okay? And that in the reverse of this, that if all of that capital in the market tanks, like in a .com style bust of what AI is right now, and for those, again, I'll back up here too, is that we have a 50,000, the Dow's somewhere around 50,000 right now points. It's the highest it's ever been, and a lot of that is being driven by these tech stocks that are doing very well. Stocks like NVIDIA and Microsoft and what's that? Google, Facebook, Broadcom, all these tech giants are doing very, very well because they're just pouring shitloads of money into data centers. And I don't know if you guys know the RAM prices. For those of you gamers out there, graphics cards have always been the bottleneck for the last few years. Now it's RAM. The the cost of RAM has gone up like 7 times what it used to be in the last few months because AI takes a lot of memory. So I just rebuilt my computer. I paid $600 for 32 gigabytes of RAM. That would have been $200, maybe less, a year ago. So there's people there's people on Reddit that are that they're like basically like there's a black market of RAM right now where people that have like bought a ton of RAM, because you could buy like 128 gigs, 256 gigs of RAM, for $200-300 now, and now it's worth like $3,000. And so they're stripping the RAM out of their computers and then selling them. And then like a lot of the graphics card manufacturers that have included the RAM on their graphics cards for since the beginning of graphics cards being made are now, they're going to sell you the card, but you got to go get the RAM, the manufacturers, like NVIDIA and stuff is going to sell them the graphics card without the RAM now. So now they gotta put the RAM on it themselves. And so it's becoming very, so Chris Thornberg thinks that's all bullshit and that it's all just a bubble and it's gonna pop and it's gonna result in a lot of debt due to a federal deficit. And basically what that's gonna do, and he compares this to the dot-com bubble I don't think it pulled out the, oops, sorry, I forgot that we're not connected. So, came up with this chart here. So it kind of shows the parallels of the dot-com bubble and, the current, where we're at with current AI. I guess the stock market holds the highest P&E ratio in history, which is profits and earnings. And correct me for any stock market people out there, stock guys. When your P&E is too high, that's not a great thing. Or is it the other way around? I'm not a stock guy. The ratio is too high, which means it's, yeah. Yeah, so like you don't, yeah, I'm not a stock guy. Can you tell? So the only other times valuations, so they're valued so high over what they actually are making. So it's just like pie in the sky kind of, like OpenAI, for example, the company that makes ChatGPT. I don't know what the numbers are, but they have borrowed money that they're gonna have to pay back as if they were making like 300 times more income than they actually are right now. So like they're borrowing money based on like future income. And so anyways, and then Wall Street's pulling in record bonuses while the median economy normalizes. So what Thornberg's saying is that bubble pops, right? Step 2 is the foreign capital. International investors lose confidence and they pull their money out of U.S. stock markets because everything's imploding. So when this stuff happens, it's all like a domino effect, right? People, they're scared at the top and it just kind of filters back in. Ray, do you have a question? It could be. Yeah, it could be. It could be. And yeah, there's a lot of. So we all know what happened in 2008, right? You've got anybody here watch The Big Short? Anybody haven't? Go watch it. Just for the acting, it's good. But no, it's a great movie. Even though it's well made, but it's got a lot of. It'll make your blood boil and entertain you at the same time. So, why did I bring that up? I was up until 3 a.m. last night doing this and messing with AI. So, go ahead. What would I say? With demand? Oh, we were talking about NVIDIA. So, yeah. So there's a lot of money being thrown around AI that a lot of people think is just like Ponzi and wasteful, and these valuations are insane. And then now you got everything like all the meme stock craze from GameStop years ago, and all these investors just these mom and pop investors just throwing their life savings at stocks to try and ride these waves, and Bitcoin and everything else. It's kind of the Wild West. So in Thornberg's position that this is all like just coming to an end kind of thing. And when that happens and the stock market drops and all this money that flows into the U.S. From other countries, and because we're the reserve currency of the world, we benefit from that. And that all is going to not stop. It's not like it just stops tomorrow, but it's going to reduce enough that that the government's going to have to respond to that. And Thornberg is saying that because of that debt and this deficit spending, which we're all spending, we've been in a deficit right since Clinton, where we spend more money than we actually make as a country. And so we have this huge deficit of what is spent and what is brought in income. And that to even bring that deficit to like level, every single household in the entire country would have to spend $15,000 to $16,000 more per year in taxes just to even the score. That's not to actually start paying off the debt. That's just to close the deficit so that debt doesn't get any bigger. Okay? So to entice, hopefully you guys are following me here, if that foreign capital stops investing, the way to get the foreign capital back that the Fed, when the Fed looks at all this stuff, the Federal Reserve, the way to get that back, sorry, I keep forgetting that these aren't linked, guys, my bad. When that happens, the only way that the main way that the Federal Reserve gets foreign capital to invest back into the country is to raise interest rates, because they want to raise that return that the investors are getting, okay? Which, again, when the Fed raises the interest rates, typically that means the mortgage rates are going to go up. So not always, though, as we've seen over the last couple of years, but that's typically the way it works. So his prediction is that in the next 3 to 5 years, the rates push even higher. The Federal Reserve rates push even higher, which pushes the interest rates up. I'm sorry. Gotta stop doing that. Whoop. And that essentially, when they do that, people are, when the economy's not doing great and they raise interest rates, what does it do? It makes the economy worse. Why? It slows it down, affordability. The harder it is for people to borrow money, the more likely they're going to borrow money to start and do businesses that, keep the economy going. Okay, so it's like this bad spiral of things that are going on. Okay, so in order to relieve that, in this scenario, so in the high interest rate scenario, in order to relieve that, is to what? Fire up the presses. Yep, fire up the presses, start printing money, just start adding zeros to the computer and start smashing that zero button on the computer. Which does what? Inflation. Yep. So in Thornberg's view, again, just to recap, we're going to have higher inflation, higher interest rates. So we're going to have an AI bubble pop, higher interest rates that are going to lead to higher inflation. Everybody with me? Okay. In Bruce Norris's view, all of that, in his view, basically like, and again, I'm reciting kind of what I learned, and then from my own stuff too. So I'm not necessarily like everything I say isn't quoting Bruce exactly. Okay. I don't want to misrepresent anything he said. This is how I understand it, okay? So that, yes, we can look at some of these things, and maybe Thornberg's looking at, the normal charts and graphs and how things have worked in the past. In Bruce's mind, it seems that he's not, like, what's going to happen hasn't happened ever, because we've never had a massive threat to the labor force like AI. Okay, so some of these charts, we can't look at it and say, well, the housing, everything else is fine, but the housing industry is crashing. Now we know what happens. We can guess. We can try and make an educated guess there, but this particular chain of events hasn't happened. So. like, and just to recap here, like, so his view of AI is that it's not just a stock market illusion, it's not just a bubble, it's a rapid, unprecedented labor disruptor. Okay, and it's not just the physical labor side, it's not just the blue collar side, and it's not just the white collar. It's literally like there's jobs that are being automated that are the cognitive side and the physical side. Granted, physical side of things seems less threatened right now than necessarily like the software programmers, but it's coming for them too. And then everything from like the most like eminent of those is the entry-level white-collar work, so like your tech support, I mean, how many of you have talked to or talked to the website's tech support in the last, year, and you can clearly tell that it went from being like a human, even if it wasn't an annoying human, to like now it's an AI, and sometimes it's an even more annoying AI. Okay? But sometimes it's better, and now sometimes you even like, I can't tell if this is real or not. So, logistics, I don't know if you guys have seen some of these videos of what's that? No, I'm on the same one. I'm on the bottom here. So like logistics-wise, Amazon, I don't know if you guys have seen, Amazon's been laying off a ton of people in these warehouses, and they have like literally like robots going out and picking all this stuff, and they don't have them delivering them to your door yet, but who knows? Yeah, so, and then the catalyst of that is that Bruce is basically predicting which when he said this out loud, I was like, holy crap. So he's basically predicting a COVID-style unemployment, but that one that sticks around, not that rebounds 6 months later or a year later, but one that comes, so 15% unemployment brought on by like rapid integration of AI, and like the losses of millions and millions of jobs that are permanent losses. Not just everyone's taking a year off for COVID and then they just go back to work. And a potential to reach higher. So in turn, because of that, what happens when a bunch of people lose their jobs? They don't pay anything. They're not paying their mortgage. What's the result of that on a massive scale? Foreclosures, maybe. You have a flatlining of GDP because everybody stops spending. The important thing is that yes, people stop paying their bills, but they also stop going to the store. They also stop buying stuff. So you have GDP flatlining. While and if you guys pay attention to the way markets and all this stuff works, like what do we want? We always want growth. We want GDP growth. Because if we're not growing with the amount of debt that we have, if we're not growing to pay some of that debt to carry that, if we just flatline in GDP, our debt payments keep stacking up. Okay? So, and as part of that, what is this? This is, I don't think it says it on here. But he's essentially, this is by, I know the chart says year 10 down there. This is by, I think, 2040, the GDP is projected to be at $55 trillion. Okay, so, and at that point, let me see if it's on the next slide. Yep. No, sorry, this is, 1 second. Which one am I on? So there's only been one other time. So the debt's gonna get really large. Okay, it's gonna keep going up. There's nobody that's serious, whether you're with the president or not, as far as the tax cuts and all of that stuff. And I think when Trump was talking about doing when it was the big beautiful bill, and correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure you guys will. When he was talking about the big beautiful bill, is that the idea of these tax cuts is that it was going to spur spending, and to make up for the tax cuts. Okay, am I wrong on that? Was that kind of the gist of it? Okay. Which, I don't know, sometimes that seems to work, sometimes not. Time will tell, but if it's in Bruce's predictions, is that we're not going to see that growth to make up for that. So, so they're really like, and Thornberg kind of talked about this a little bit too, was like, and that's where, you'd have to raise taxes, not cut them. You'd have to raise taxes to even just to level out the deficit. Again, just to level out the deficit to even start to hope to pay down that debt. Okay? Now, the thing that saves us right now, and why we're able to do this and run these massive deficits, is that we are the reserve currency of the world, which for those of you that don't know what that means, it means that the dollar rules the world. Okay? In the financial markets, everybody pegs their value of their currency to us, to the US dollar. Okay? So, when you value Japanese yen or the Chinese yuan and whatever else, the euro, all that stuff, it's all pegged to us, which is basically in some way or form is pegged to oil. So it's why they call it the petrodollar. Okay? So it's a very great system if you're the US of A. And right now, we've been the reserve currency since the end of World War II. And Bruce went into this a little bit. We are like, if you look at any other reserve currency that's ever been a reserve currency, they've all switched to something else. No, in the history of the world, all going back to, Rome, has a reserve currency ever been just forever. So, like, time is not on our side as far as reserve currency. And there are signs that, like, well, we'll get into this a little bit later, but, there have been people that have been trying to threaten our kind of monopoly that we have on the financial system of the world by being the reserve currency. One of them's getting the shit bombed out of them right now. So, and then one of them was Venezuela. So, and we know what happened to them a little recently. So, I'm not going to get into conspiracies and all that, but it's interesting. But there are signs. There have been signs. I read about this stuff originally like 15 years ago, and I'm sure it was being talked about way before that. About that eventually, America could lose reserve currency status, and all these poor decisions that we make financially make that more of a possibility. But in Bruce's mind, and Bruce has talked about this quite a bit, and I'd agree with him. There's really no true competitor out there. I'm sure if you're a Bitcoin fan, you'd be a Bitcoin, right? But even Bitcoin has its actual currencies. Nobody trusts China. A lot of people don't trust us right now, but nobody really trusts China. So nobody's going to jump to the yuan, tomorrow. So as much as the reserve currency status is threatened and is getting more and more so, there's really nothing that he sees. And again, I'd agree with him that is really going to compete with us. That's just going to, everyone's just be like, all right, we're on the euro now. Like, they're not even close. Okay, just the massive amount of weight that the dollar still has, and the 11 aircraft carriers that it still powers, has a lot of might. So I don't see it happening, anytime soon. But it's something to keep an eye on. So again, kind of backing up here, I got off on a little tangent there. But this situation, so like this big unemployment, flat GDP growth, lots of spending, has really only happened like that we have charts for. Happened in Japan. Okay, it happened in Japan in the 90s. Japan had a really big crash after years and years and years of just going like this after World War II, and crashed really hard in the 90s. And the way that the government of Japan basically made it work was that GDP flattened out. They kept inflation really low, but they just went into debt, crazy amounts of debt. So Japan's at one point their debt to GDP ratio was 250%. So it was massive. And then they kept their interest rates really low. They basically gave away free money from the Bank of Japan to their people for 30 years. Okay, so Japan is deep in debt, but they were able to kind of keep it steady there with really cheap money when they had flat GDP growth. So I probably fumbled that a little bit, but that was the idea. Okay, so the other thing that is what we can look at is what happened when we had massive unemployment. And the only thing that we had massive unemployment to that level was COVID, right? So again, COVID, we got up to like 10, 15% unemployment, like overnight. What do we got here? And then what did the Fed do, right? What was the answer? They printed money. Yep. And what else? Low interest rates. And why? For stimulus. Yep. And why does it stimulate? Why does low interest rates stimulate? Because people borrow more. And the more money, the cheaper the money, the more people invest. Not just in houses. That's what we're going to do. But houses, businesses, capital, equipment, thank you, that was the word I was looking for. All of it, the whole supply chain, the whole thing up and down. People, when money's cheap, people spend it. Okay? When money's expensive, the opposite happens. So he's looking at what happened in Japan, looking at what happened during COVID. Oh yeah, damn it. Sorry, that's the Japan. Oh, that's COVID, sorry. And then now we're here. So kind of merging those together is that to survive, let me make sure I'm not on the, yeah. So to survive in the short, and real quick, I just want to pause here, is yes, we have massive job loss, or he thinks we're going to have massive job loss for AI. I agree with him on that, and I agree. He thinks he's pretty confident that we're going to retool fairly quickly, so that yes, we will have millions and millions of people that need to be retrained and what's that? Into tech jobs, maybe. I mean, so he's confident that as a society we're going to figure it out, and that this isn't going to last forever. That they're not these millions of jobs that are just going to disappear, and it's going to feel like it's overnight. We're going to figure out what to do with all these people that are going to be laid off. Okay, UBI, universal basic income was talked about. I've seen stuff as far as people are looking at these tech companies that are leading the charge on all this stuff and all the amounts of money they're making and going, hey, you guys are going to be, you guys need to fund, what are we going to do with all these people, kind of thing. So there's probably going to be something like that. We've done, there's Section 8 and, some of the welfare programs and all that have already been around for many, many years. Is it something that those just get rolled out to a bigger group of people? I don't know. I'm hoping we can actually make most of people that are affected by this actually, productive and not just give them, move them into something productive. But, Farrah's laughing. But, Soylent Green. Yeah. Well, no, you put a weird thought in my head. Anyways, but there's going to be some caveats to that, right? I mean, and there's precedents for this, guys, right? When Ford came out with the Model T and changed the world, right? All of the people that were farriers and horse caretakers and carriage builders and all these people that were in this massive. I mean, there was more horses, and there was 5 times more horses in the world than there were people at one point. So all those people, maybe not all of them, but a lot of those people got retrained and retooled, and all the things that went away from the internet, and everything that's changed over the years. I mean, there's not people that, I'm sure there was payphone repairmen, that were probably a pretty well-paying profession for a while. They figured it out. So I think we'll figure it out. But there's also white-collar workers that, are in their 50s, 60s, maybe older, that I don't think you're just going to retrain them to start being HVAC technicians, tomorrow. So I think there's maybe we're going to have to figure it out. But Bruce is confident that we're going to figure it out. In the interim, though, the massive job loss combined with a flat GDP, and then the flat GDP, but the debt still going up, is that the Fed's only going to have one lever to pull. Otherwise, the economy and the world is going to just implode, and that is to make money very, very cheap, and lower that again, and lower that funds rate to near zero, which would drop to interest rates for mortgages to basically like 1.5 or less, and that it's going to stay there until we figure it out. So, and then and why they're doing that is that affordability, right? Because both of these guys are talking about affordability. One thing that didn't make it into the slides here, but that Thornberg talked about that I thought was interesting. You guys have heard this like K-shaped economy? You heard that? K-shaped economy. So there's like this thing that keeps getting repeated on the news, that it's called the K-shaped economy, where like we have two economies. One that is like the rich people are just getting richer, and then the middle class is just getting poor. So like if you're in this bracket, you're going up. If you're in this bracket, you're you're going down, right? So Thornberg thinks that's bullshit. Okay, like if you look at all the actual data, there was two things I want to make sure I don't mess these up. Two very specific metrics that he looked at. One was that the bottom 20% of the economy, their income has raised at the fastest it's risen in like the last 10 or 15 years, something like that. So and then affordability, the ratio of affordability, he looked at like LA County, from like the lowest 20% that actually, I know I'm fumbling this a little bit, but that the lowest 20% of households, their ratio to their rent is actually the lowest it's ever been because of that. So it's actually like the inverse of what the news would say. And so he's completely adamant that the K-shaped economy is just is BS, and that it doesn't exist. So I thought that was interesting. I wanted to share that. But regardless, they both agree that affordability is crazy, and that right now in California, I forgot what the metric is. It's the median house. I think it was the median house is 200% higher in California than the median house in the U.S. So it's massive. So especially here in California, we have a huge affordability problem. Obviously, nobody in this room is surprised by that. But the application here, just so you guys can see it, this is just a 1% difference. Okay, so a 1% difference in interest rates for the same house. Okay, the same. You're all looking at me like, what's he talking about? 1% interest rate difference up here. Okay, from 2.5 to 1.5 is almost $400 a month on the same house. Now that's an $800,000 house. Okay, which is I think the median price in California at the moment. So just that difference, if you can imagine, from, I didn't have time to do it on here, but from like a 6.5, where they're at right now, all the way down to a 1.5, it's a massive, massive difference in affordability. Even though nothing else on that equation changes, just the percentage rate of the house. So what I'm getting at again is or what Bruce was getting at too, was these lower interest rates are going to help affordability. They're going to help everything. They're going to spur the economy. Whatever. It's literally like the only trigger that the Fed has to pull if his prediction of a 15% unemployment rate is accurate. So, sure.
premature, at least in manufacturing. We're looking at I don't know how many years, but it's certainly it's going to take some time for us to get to that point to where it's the okay. You know what? We need to figure it out. It seems at least that would apply much more in, as to your point, right? White collar jobs,
Mhm.
software engineers, that kind of thing. Manufacturing, it'll be kind of somewhat a little bit similar to the industrial era, right?
Mhm.
To where it's like, okay, you go a few jobs at a time,
Yep.
right? And then you retrain and then position them to something else,
Yep.
right?
Yep. Yeah, and you're right. And what I think is interesting about that though is like definitely the efficiency gains in the existing jobs, but at what point, like we've all been in corporate America, right? Where we were talking about this at lunch. Like 20% of corporate America does 80% of the work. Sound familiar? So if the 20% of the people that are doing 80% of the work can figure out how to do all that work still with an AI as backup versus, is that there's still a lot of jobs on the chopping block, or that these teams of what I'm seeing a lot in the tech industry, not that I'm seeing it directly, but what I'm reading about is teams of software developers and stuff like that used to be these hundreds and hundreds of person teams all working in it's waterfall. What's the
Yeah, coding, ladder diagrams.
Scrum and all that, like these massive Scrum teams all on different sites and everything that that now they're they can be 5 or 10% of that size and get the same amount of work done. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting, and then there's just the amount of stuff that's coming through on some of the you had some people there that were the data centers that they're building, and these data centers, yeah, they're kind of like the warehouses. Like I'm kind of interested in I want to dive into a little bit more for the Inland Empire. Is like we got a lot of a very heavy warehouse economy, that brought in all these jobs to the Inland Empire. They weren't the greatest paying jobs in the world, but they were jobs, and now they're gonna transfer all those jobs to robots, and then now and then we're still gonna have the trucks and everything rolling around, but then, like, I don't know. So maybe there's more trucks, and the trucks need more maintenance, so we have more mechanics. I don't know.
Maybe just to add to that, we see that because again on the consulting side, I do a lot with different manufacturers sizes, and typically depending on the size, those are the ones and the type of product. Like for food manufacturers,
Mhm.
those are the first ones that will automate something, and automation has been out there for the longest,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And so the fear for automation was that it would eradicate jobs, right? And so then we found out that it's only certain specific industries where that is needed due to the tight margins, right? And also the investment that seems to be pretty high to get that implemented. So for smaller companies where implementing a system like this, like a full automated system with AI, it's very costly.
Mhm.
And the economy, the U.S. economy is also sustained. I mean, yes, they're giants, but there are a lot of the small and medium-sized businesses that provide or supply products
Mhm.
for food and everything that we use as
Yep.
well, right?
Yeah.
So those are going to be the less the threatened by this because yeah, sure, there's going to be price pressure and all that, but it's going to the adoption. It's going to be just extremely much.
Yeah, it's going to be low, and because you're right, and you nailed it with how much it's going to cost. Because at the event they had somebody there talking about these. They have these big 3D printing, like they can 3D print a house now. Okay, it's there, the tech's there, but it cost $1 million to print a $250,000 house. So, Evan.
Yeah, what we're in the middle of is going to be one of the largest economic paradigm shifts again, which happened with the internet, which Angela and I were in the printing industry, which was pretty much wiped out the way it was
Yep.
because of the internet. We really watched the company
Yep.
just get smaller every year. And now all those printers, the majority of them are now, it's all digital and totally different. And so that book, Economic Paradigms, written in 1992 by Paul St. Pilsner, talks about this. And
What was the book? What was the book one more time?
Economic Paradigms.
Economic Paradigms.
And Who Moved My Cheese?
Who Moved My Cheese? That's sitting on my desk. I want to read that.
In that again, just some of the specifics are different. Again, it's like what happened in
So I remember hopefully you don't mind me telling this story. When if you are, too bad. So when Evan and my mom first started dating, and what was that? 2002. So like around like 2000. What about like I don't remember what it was, but it wasn't too long after. This was many years ago before you went into real estate. I remember you guys all being this close to buying a printing company. I'm glad you went into real estate. Yep. I wouldn't be standing in here if you bought that printing company. Crazy, just little things, huh? The value of the four-color perfector? I don't know. Mom? Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, and I watched it too. I mean, when my mom first started working for that printing company when I was in high school, it was this massive company, lots of people doing well, just literally a printing company. It was like printing money. It literally was. They had huge clients for Disney, Carl's Jr., all this stuff, and then watched it over. By the time I like even just graduated college, I don't know, 6 or 7 years later, something like that. Like just that thing, and then 5 years, 6 years after that, it was gone. It was crazy. So, yeah, this stuff can happen fast. I mean, look at how fast, like I said, the Model T, came out, and how fast everything went to cars versus, I mean, they built all the freeways in the 30s and 40s. So it was pretty fast, and this stuff's happening quicker. So, anyways, that's Bruce's prediction. That's both of them side by side. So again, Thornberg's predicting that it's all in a bubble, and that and then that interest rates, they're going to jack it up because they're going to crash the economy basically, in the equities market and all that, and it's going to get higher interest rates. Okay. Norris's prediction is that it's going to be the opposite. AI is here to stay. It's going to drive the most massive unemployment spike that we have ever seen in history, and it's going to be not like a COVID style, like it's going to be a COVID style unemployment, but one that sticks around. Okay, and they're both predicting that this is going to happen by 2030. Okay, so in the next 4 years, 3.5. Okay, that we're going to see this. So. And we're going to see probably either one, okay? There's not a whole heck of a lot that we see something like kind of in the middle of this. Like it's going to be an either or is kind of where I'm at. So let's take a vote. Who thinks Chris is right? That AI is a bubble, that AI is a bubble. Anybody? Ricardo? Anybody else? It's okay. We're not. What's that? The stock market part of it's a bubble. Fair enough.
Google, Amazon was making no money in 2000, and as part of that,
Mm-hmm.
because the value didn't match.
Yep.
But it became true, but most of the other companies didn't. So
Yep.
I think it's in the middle.
Think it's in the middle?
But I'll lean towards Bruce.
Who thinks Bruce is right? All right. The second guy? Yeah, that's the second guy. None of the above. Who's none of the above? Well, yeah, somewhere in the middle, a hybrid, something like that. Okay, Ray?
Honestly, the presentation missed this little tiny country called China, so that kind of wipes out the entire presentation.
I missed China, so it wipes out the entire presentation. You want to come do one? Why, Ray? The quick version.
Petrodollar exists because of the secret agreement from 1973, where basically we gave the Saudis a deal, and then all the oil gets done in dollars.
Yep.
China disagrees with that, and China is going country to country doing deals in the Chinese currency.
Yep.
China is the biggest exporter in the world
Yep.
of stuff. The U.S. has fallen way behind on that.
Yep.
So it has huge economic import thing on the reserve currency, and this whatever
You're right. It has downward pressure on the reserve currency. Yep. Or one of the biggest threats. Yeah. Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah, we'll see. It could. It could. So, let me see if I can paraphrase this well. China's the gorilla in the equation. They're the biggest threat to the petrodollar, to our reserve currency status, and that this war with Iran could unseat the petrodollar. Is that what you're saying? And that the use of dollars is going down and all that. Yep. Yeah. And I agree. Those are all threats. What I kind of agree with Bruce on is still that, yes, as much as some of our recent actions have made people dislike us, or maybe not even trust us a little bit less, they still trust us, at least for now, and that we don't, but they equivocally, most of these countries, other than these ones that actually need a lot of help, nobody trusts China. Okay, nobody trusts China to not steal their IP. Nobody trusts China to actually do what they say they're going to do. And for the moment, as I alluded earlier, how many aircraft carriers does China have? How many aircrafts do they have? Yeah, they have 3. When was the last time you ordered something off of Temu? Let me know. What was the last? How much stuff have you ordered directly from China that didn't come through an American corporation, that was direct from China, that you were happy with the quality? True, it is, but it's with American product quality, like product assurance, quality assurance. Not all of it. I mean, you still get junk, but yeah. My point is, Ray, is that I don't think you're wrong. I think China is probably the biggest threat to our reserve currency status, but they're not there yet. And would they come up soon? We'll see. Mm-hmm. I don't know what that is. I don't have a comment on that, but yeah, maybe. Andy? Yep. Yeah, so. Yep. Yeah, and whether you agree with the president or not, or his administration or anything, I think there's a truth that whether you believe in climate change or climate adjustments or whatever, it believes in you, and that something is amiss in our climate system, and it doesn't, even if there's not, the fight of the future is going to be over natural resources and water as we expand. The Earth is finite. Okay, it's not unlimited resources. If it was, we wouldn't have any of the wars. We wouldn't have any of these if it's all over resources. Okay, so right now why you're seeing a lot of these us and China and Europe and all these like global powers resorting back to kind of these I don't know if I want to say less evolved ways of thinking, but that there's only so many resources, and with I won't get into AI right this second, but there's only so many resources to go around. Fresh water is going to become an issue. Oil is going to become an issue. Energy production is already an issue. We're already seeing shortages of stuff that we thought never would have a shortage. So somebody's going to control it. And, somebody's going to control it. Is it going to be us? Is it going to be China? Is it going to be Europe? Is it going to be some confederation of new things? I don't know. I personally think Russia's kind of overblown. Yes, they have a huge land military. They also have an economy that's smaller than California. Okay, China. Again, they're the largest threat. I think Bruce was talking about, and like I said, I'd agree with him that they could be a contender in the future. Right now, I don't think they have what it takes to be that everyone's going to flee the dollar and go to China. And I'm going to move on from there. Okay, so desalinization can solve a water issue. They're also highly energy intensive, and yes, we will maybe solve that someday. We're getting way off topic. Yeah, we're gonna keep moving. Yeah. Yep. When people are afraid, right? So. Anyways, all right, so if you don't think AI is coming, which I think all of you do, I'm just going to show you what I did in the last couple of weeks. So with Claude, you guys, who's heard of OpenClaw? Okay? If you haven't, Google it, okay? So it's basically like personal AI to build on your computer, and I literally spent the last 2 weeks messing around with it. And this is just me. I'm a nerd at heart, but I've never worked in the tech industry or anything like that. I'm not a programmer. I built a website that said hello when I was in 4th grade, and I've tinkered with websites and everything like that over the years, but it's kind of like the Matrix. I can read it, but I can't actually make it, okay? But I can now with AI. So literally, I spent the last 2 weeks doing this. I know it's a little small. I spent the last 2 weeks doing this. The first week was literally just setting it up, and then the last 3 or 4 days was actually letting it loose. And so I've basically taken those Fire AI things and built it into the next level of what I really wanted to do. And the deal finding thing I renamed Angela after my mother. And Angela scans Zillow automatically by zip code. She now scores the properties on distress signals, foreclosures, price drops, everything. Ranks and pushes them directly into my CRM, which I'm using right now as the back end of the club, which is Go High Level. It is fully integrated into that now. So I don't have to do anything. This is literally running while I'm sleeping. So that deal sniffer thing that I showed you guys how to use, that's this, but automated. So on top of that, every new lead that hits, that deal analyzer that you guys have, I renamed him to Spock. So Angela finds them, Spock runs them. Okay, and Spock he finds all the comps, calculates the ARV, creates offers, and then before I even look at the deal, before I even look at the property, all of that stuff is already put into the CRM as notes. Okay, this is stuff that I've been dreaming for my VA to be able to do for years, but I haven't been able to train him to do it. Okay, again, 3 days, and then the marketing. There's a marketing one. I called him Homer. Not after the Simpsons character, the guy who wrote the Odyssey. He's trained in the 5 Ps and a lot of copywriting particulars, and I gave him examples of how I like to write. And now so he's going to be the one that's writing the weekly emails that you guys get, the social media posts some of you guys are going to see. That follow me on Facebook and stuff. There literally is knows now, it's built into his memory, the Tuesday events, the Wednesday events, a Thursday recap, and then it's going to literally give me drafts every week that into Slack, because you guys know I love Slack, and using Slack as militantly as I am for using Slack over the years has paid off, because now everything that has been going on for 10 years is in Slack for the AI to read and look at. So it drops it into Slack. I just approve it. That is the system right now. So those are all the agents that I have on the side. That they have all their own Slack channels, and they all have different jobs. So One's the chief of staff. Any DuckTales fans? Is that the only one? You guys remember Gyro, the inventor? Yeah, he's my commander. So he's the guy who runs the whole thing. He's the brains, and then he delegates down to all the sub agents, and they all run their tasks. And sometimes they all run together. So like Gyro's the one that tells the other ones to run the deal sniffer, do all that stuff, and then it all does it. Okay, and then the system itself is the deal sniffer talks to. Is that the slide I wanted? Yeah, sorry. So the lead intake, the deal sniffers and all that is run through Zillow. It's going into Slack. It's talking to Trello. It's talking to Go High Level. It is talking to, what did I also hook it up to? I hooked it up to QuickBooks. And I literally like I only hooked it up to the club's books right now because the club's books are like a lot of just in and out spending income and then a lot of expenses. So, and if it messes that up, I could just reload all of it. But I wasn't going to hook it up. I haven't hooked it up to like my rental books yet, but I'm dying to. Okay, because like I literally I hooked it up to the club's books, and I said, all right, if you were a high-level accountant, what would you tell me? And it gave me a list of like, well, you need to fix this. I would ask your accountant about this, blah, 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 and stuff that I was like, oh, okay, cool. So, but I don't want it to, there's some safety stuff that I don't want to hook it up to that yet. So anyways, and that's literally what I did in 3 days. And I've 3 days of like, she's like, I got into bed last night at like 3 a.m. and she was like, you're insane. And I'm like, you have no idea. Like if I didn't have to sleep like these robots, I'd have freaking 100 more already. So like, what's next? Just like what's in my mind right now is that it's connected to Google Workspace right now, so it has access to, again, just like one of my emails. I have 5 emails. It's only connected to one right now, but it has full access to my Gmail, my calendar, my Drive, the slides, my sheets, everything. It's hooked up to QuickBook. It has its own knowledge base that it's building up. I'm hooked into Twitter's API that I can do social media research on, and like what's being built right now that's just in the pipe of getting built that maybe tomorrow is a business intelligence dashboard, a meeting intelligence. So like when I'm having meetings, it'll listen in and then fire off to-do list to everybody. A personal CRM that's built for me, so it's going to talk to Go High Level, Podio, and Slack, and then control it and give me updates if I forget about a lead or whatever. The inbound lead automation. So from the deal sniffer, for Angela and Spock, I want them to basically, after they do all that, there's going to be another AI that fires off an email to the agent with an offer, and then when I get it back to me, then I'll if the agent responds from there, then I'll take it. Okay. But I want all that automated, and then from there, it's like hooking it up to Deal Machine, hooking it up to pretty much whatever else I can hook it up to at the moment, and trying to automate some of this stuff. And somebody asked me the other day, they're like, it was actually, I posted some of this stuff on Facebook, and somebody was like, why somebody DM'd me, and they're like, dude, why would you tell people that? I'm like, because, well, I believe in like abundance. That's why this whole building exists. B, I couldn't possibly, like what I'm about to build here, I couldn't possibly handle everything that it's gonna do for me. Like the amount of like leads that I'm expecting to get from this thing, there's no way. And it's I have it pulling like just as like a test. I have it pulling in all the zip codes in a 40-mile radius around the fire center. Okay, that's just the test. That's not like full blown. That's just of like let's just see if this works a little bit. And so like I said, there's no way once this really gets rolling, there's no way I'm going to be able to handle it on my own. I'm going to pass it to you guys, and then the people that are builders, you guys are going to get it first. So who's the builder out here? Yeah. So if you don't know what a builder is, talk to them. So that's literally just the stuff that I've wanted to do for years that I did in 3 days. Okay. And it'll probably be done by next week on some of the rest of it. As long as I don't run into bugs that take me 3 hours to debug. So again, that was just me, and I'm an idiot. I am not a programmer. This is just me tweaking stuff. No coding. There's a little bit of coding. That one's a lie. It wasn't really coding. It was more like the thing coding it for me, and then I had to plug it in. And when I ran into errors, I had to ask it what to do, and then I'd go do what it told me to do. Okay? Like, it wasn't me. I mean, I have a benefit that I know, like, kind of what I'm looking at, but some of this stuff, like, I hadn't done in years. So, like, that gap of using AI and not using AI is about to get, like, very wide. So if you are not already using AI, I would, and you think it's hype, which I don't think anybody in this room does, but start using it. Even if Gary called me the other day, he's like, what do I do with it? I'm like, dude, just start talking to it. He's like, can it do this? Can it do this? Can I ask it to do this? I'm like, you could just talk to it. Just ask it a question like it's regular human. He's like, oh, okay. And then he started asking, he's like, this is cool. So, vibe coding. Yep, you're right. Yep. So that's the new word. It's called vibe coding. You're not really coding. You're just vibing with your AI, and it's coding for you. Okay. Where do I get the tenant information?
Yeah, you mentioned that you're also putting in a score there, tenant reviews or tenant ratings or something.
No, it's just scoring. So it's come up with its own system of scoring, like the quality of the lead based on my parameters. It came up with it itself. I didn't tell it to do this. It was like, we could score them, and I could show you the highest scoring ones first, and then and then I was like, and then I asked it about zip codes, and it's like, well, here's the 10 biggest zip codes that have the most distress sales in them. Do you want me to target those first? And I told it no, because that's where everybody else is looking. So, but no, nothing about tenants. Sorry. If I did, I might have misspoke. Yep. I'm just sending an email. I'm not an agent. Yep. Nope. So the question was, am I sending an offer or a letter of intent? It's the advantage of not being a realtor. I'm just an investor, is that I can email any investor in the world and just say, or excuse me, any realtor in the world and just say, is there a question back there, guys? Question? So yeah, I just fire off the offer, and if they respond, great. And if they don't respond within 48 hours, the AI alerts Caitlin, and she calls the agent. So that's the backup. Yep. Yeah. So yes, I would call the listing agent. And what's cool, so it looks at Zillow, so it finds all this stuff on Zillow. Then it finds out who the listing agent is, and then instead of just taking like whatever it finds, I had it go. I want you to find. I gave it instructions. I said, I want you to go find the actual email and the actual phone number. Use any source that you can think of to make sure and verify that this is the real address. And it went on one agent's Instagram and found her email that was in her profile, and put that in the Go high level in the CRM. And because it was at first, it was like giving like info at Keller Williams. I was like, no, that's not. But it corrected itself. And again, I didn't really have to fix it. I just told it to fix it. So they're calling it like reverse prompting now. It's like, so when you're doing it with this stuff, like all that prompting and everything we talked about in the AI class, that still is effective on ChatGPT and when you're talking to like directly to the chatbots. But when you're building it out for yourself, you're more asking it, how do I do this, or what do you think of this, and letting it tell you. So, anyways, that was just me. Last question. Yeah. It's a great question. Chen, would you like to ask me that question? Paid. I'm glad you're here. That was awesome. I use the paid for everything. I'm not afraid to pay money for quality. So, yeah, for right now. I'm paying a $200 max plan on Claude to have but that runs the back end of everything I just showed you. And for those of you, this stuff's changing quickly, guys. So like when I gave the class, 6 weeks ago, whatever that was, and I told you that I'm primarily using ChatGPT, the pro version of ChatGPT, I'm not anymore. Now I'm using Claude. So next week I could be back to Gemini or who knows. But it's not, I'm using Claude for most of it, but then it's also spinning up Gemini and Nano Banana and stuff for some other stuff. Cool? Yeah, the max plan on COD, yep. Yeah, at the moment, yes. So there's like things with tokens, and I don't want to really go into too deep in that, but there's you can hook. Yes, yes. It's enough. It's the $200 plan for Claude right now is pretty damn close to unlimited for what I'm doing. I am burning through tokens quite a bit, but I haven't hit the limit. I haven't even come close yet. But I'm on day 3. So if I have all of these things working in tandem, yeah, I might have to jump it down to because you can route. It can actually run Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, and other ones all simultaneously to do whatever you gave it. And then, yeah, I did get a Mac Mini, and I have a local model too that's running off the Mac, so it's not even running on the cloud one anymore. But that's like a backup to the rest of them. So, what's that? Do I see it being an issue as I scale? Yeah, that's why the builders are getting it. Because I'm probably going to have to buy the enterprise plan if I want to really ramp this up. And yeah, we'll see. Because it's so it's a lot of computing power. And I want to bring up China real quick. So while you're also seeing this, and this is nuts. And when somebody told me about this, I was just like, holy shit! And that's what really like. It was a guy named Buddy, and he was one of the presenters at the Norris Group's event, right? And this guy was just so fired up about AI, and some of the stuff he was talking about that I was just like, holy crap! I'm like, I feel like I'm ahead of the curve on this. And then he was talking, and I was just like, I don't know shit. And then like that was 3 weeks ago, and now I'm here. So I feel like I've maybe caught up, but I'm still like not there yet. And but he was talking about like. So what you're seeing, and this might be part of the, what you're seeing in Iran and Venezuela and the energy and oil and all of that, is like, look, guys, AI is here to stay. Whether you believe it's a bubble and it could still be a bubble, like in the stock sense, like you were talking about. But whatever it is, it's here to stay. And the governments of the world are 100% convinced that they have to win. Okay, like, and right now it's us versus China in the AI race. And I start to get goosebumps when I talk about this now, is that, like, one of us is going to win, okay? Right now, we are crushing China on the compute side of it, the engineering side of it, our tech companies, all of that, even though all of the hardware for it is made in China. Our actual, like, software and brain power and all human brain power and capital and infrastructure and all of that, we're way ahead of the curve on China for the moment, okay? But AI is massively hungry and massively thirsty, okay? These data centers take a shitload of power, and they take an even higher amount of water to cool them, okay? So where these data centers are popping up all over the country, they're actually running into problems with like the local municipalities and stuff, because everyone's power bills and water bills are skyrocketing, and they're running generators at the data center to keep the servers on. Okay, so while we're failing right now, and where China is doing very well on is actually power. So China's has blanketed the entire country in solar panels. They're bringing nuclear power plants online. They already have been. We haven't built a nuclear plant in, I think, 27 years or something like that. We just finished one? It took 20 years. You know how many we have in the queue to start?
They're giving permits now. They went
Right now, you know how many we're building right now? As far as I know, 0. Okay, you know how many China's building right now? Like 20. Okay, so and they don't have the environmental regulations. So like he was talking about, like, they had met with Speaker Johnson and some of the other people in the administration, and like coming down the pipe from Washington is that they know this. Like, they know that either China's going to win at AI or we are, and it's going to change the fucking world. Like, that's what we're looking at. And so, like, a lot of the, I mean, they're just writing off environmental regulations to, like, get this stuff moving fast, because if we don't win, China's going to, and it's going to change everything. And so these and it's going to take massive amounts of resources. That's the thing. Like these data centers, they're water, power, but all of the chips, all of the hardware, all of the supply lines, all the electrical lines, the copper, the silicone, like all of it that goes into this stuff. If you really start looking at it from that lens of like, holy shit, we're in a war, like a covert war with China to win AI, basically right now, and you look at what's going on in the world, it kind of makes sense. On it's like a shadow resource law, or war. Sorry, not law. What's that? They're ahead on a lot of robot tech. And like anything, yeah. So, but we all, like I said, we're ahead in compute. They're ahead in infrastructure and power generation. So maybe if we figure out a way to work together for the betterment of humanity, it might be. But it's Brandon. Yeah. Yeah, like Facebook wants to have its own nuclear like thing so they can power. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and we can't wait 10 years to get approval for the reactor, because there's some sandworm that's protected. That doesn't mean I hate the environment. Okay. Yeah. So like I said, so there's things happening in the background of this massive resource race. And you see everything like, all the chips and everything that are being made overseas. And now we're looking at it going, holy shit, we better figure out how to build these closer to home because we're going to need them. And if they're all being made 5 miles off the coast of China, in Taiwan, we better make sure that we have them here. So you see, Intel ramping up foundries again and all this stuff. Like it's all about this stuff. So anyways, there's going to be, a lot of haves and have-nots here. Okay, if what Bruce is talking about comes true, it's going to create a couple things here. So like if we see 1% interest rates, the mortgage industry is going to go crazy. There's going to be a shitload of refis, all that stuff. Agents are going to, realtors, everything's going to be moving real quick. But his note on that, his caveat is that we're basically borrowing from the future on that. So we're going to have a massive wave of refis, and all those people that are in those industries are going to be doing great for a good amount of years. And then it's going to fall off a cliff again, and that's going to be it for like a decade or more, because nobody at a 1% interest rate is going to refi or move ever again. And then the have-nots, this they're talking about, you might have heard this, like this permanent underclass, people are calling it, which I think is shitty, but that's the term that I keep seeing thrown around. This locked out class of people that are, if they're not prepared to take advantage of this in the next few years, they're going to be like locked out of the market for a long, long time. Because when this happens, and the recovery to recover from it is going to be the same thing we've seen now, where we're going to get higher interest rates. We're going to have a period to buy everything, and then a period of money's going to get expensive again. Okay, we've already talked about Iran a little bit. If it causes, we've already talked about Iran a little bit, but I don't want to dive into it because we're already over. 2 paths here. Okay, it could cause inflation. Okay, if oil spikes and all that, Thornberg's, his thing's more likely to come true. If it triggers a recession and triggers this, it makes companies automate and push AI even more to save profits and all that. Norris wins. I don't know if we call it winning, but Norris is right. And that happens either way in either of those scenarios. If there's a shortage of materials and oil and all that stuff gets expensive, inflation, construction costs rise. Okay, replacement cost rises, which means if you have existing inventory right now, it becomes more valuable. Okay, so yeah, buy. What Bruce would do now, he'd own free and clear if you can, he's saying if you have the ability to have liquidity for even if you're at 50% vacancy and have liquidity for 10 years, I know that sounds like a long time, but if you had to, that would be the position he would like to be in. So even if you have houses that are, if you can, I know it's a double-edged sword. If you have great financing on stuff already, don't sell it. He would 1031 into Florida, sell all of his stuff, $900,000. If you have paid off inventory here, sell it. Buy 3 houses in Florida for cash. Don't have any debt on them, and do that. And then buy the fear, buy the dip. When all this stuff, if it comes to pass, buy everything. And then what Norris was talking, or excuse me, Chris Thornberg jumped into. You got Bruce Norris, who's always been kind of, since years ago when he told people to buy California, he's not a big fan of California anymore. He sold all his shit in California and moved it to Florida. Okay, did really well there for a while. Isn't doing so hot right this second, as far as I know, with all the insurance charges and all that. Okay, so this slide's from Thornberg. Thornberg, and I tend to agree with Thornberg on this stuff. Okay, I'm big pro California. I'm going to tell you, and this is kind of why. You're seeing it in the Sun Belt right now, where they completely, because their regulatory environment was so lax to building, they were able to flood the market with new homes and new apartments and blah blah blah. And I'm sure anybody have friends in Texas in real estate? Yeah, are they doing real hot right now? No. Okay. So things got overbuilt. Rents are softening quickly there. And then same thing in the Midwest. Nobody wants to live there. Okay. Those flyover states and stuff like that. Yes, they're really, really cheap. There are people that live there, okay, but the demand isn't really there. Thornberg's verdict is basically like, despite having a hostile regulatory environment, despite it being tough to build here, that toughness actually creates kind of barrier to entry that keeps our asset prices high. And that the desirability, even though in the short term right now, we have a little bit of an exodus. That is the narrative that gets pushed. Remember, everybody hates us because they ain't us. Okay, so it's always, since I can remember, and way before that, I'm sure. Like I said, I like to talk about this book, The Monopoly Game. I read. Pete Fortunato told me to read. It was written in the '70s, and it's all about people bitching about affordability and California's going to collapse. It was written in the '70s. Okay. This is nothing new that people have been saying this. The reality is that the state still retains some of the smartest, brightest people, the highest incomes, the best weather, the most deep water ports of any other thing. We're the 5th largest economy in the world. There's just a lot of reasons to be here. Okay, and that these periods of the dissatisfaction are really like political. And that where politics swinging a pendulum right now, that pendulum swung to a very high regulatory environment. I think it swung a little high. He thinks it's going to swing back over the next few years, especially with these disruptions and stuff that might be coming in the market. That pro-business stuff you'll see making its way back into California, even if it's not like right on the surface. It's happening under the surface, a lot kind of like the ADU laws that you're seeing now of more. Even though like it's he gets up on the microphone and says certain things to pulpit to supporters, is the stuff that he's doing on the other side is a little bit better. So in Thornberg's view, the long run for California is very, very good. He thinks they're wrong. Anybody that says otherwise, he thinks they're wrong. I agree. Okay. So what I'm doing is, one, I'm ignoring the YouTube doom and gloom. I'm looking at quick turns. I don't want to get stuck in anything super long term. So that's either 6 months or less flips, or I'm refining into longer term debt as fast as possible. Even if I have a prepay, okay, I'm kind of hedging things. So even if I have a prepay on my refis, and if that prepay is even 5 years, and if in 3 years I can refinance into a 1% loan, I'll just pay the cost. It'll be okay. Like the amount that I'm coming up at that, it'll be all right. And if I'm wrong, or if that doesn't happen, I have good 30-year financing in place anyways, okay? I'm building this community that we're going to get through together, whatever is coming at us, okay? I put that quote in, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together, okay? So I'm still putting a lot of time into this building and the center and all of you, to weather whatever is coming at us. and try and stay on top and ahead of it, okay? I'm trying not to fly too close to the sun, being that if I'm not trying to stretch myself too thin and biting off more than I can chew at once, even if it means I'm passing on, some things that I really want, I might have to say no here. I'm kind of at my limit right this second of active projects as far as, turning them into rentals. I might have to start selling some stuff, okay? That doesn't mean I don't want to do more deals. It's just that I might have to wholesale. And for those of you that are out there, like if you're in deals that went bad, get out. And even if that means taking a haircut, it's better than letting it tank you. So live to fight another day, get out while you can, or as fast or clean as you can, and move on, okay? If you were supposed to make X and now you're only gonna make this, or you were supposed to make 50 grand and now you're gonna lose 50 grand, that's part of it, okay? But if you let it go long enough and turn into cancer that it would sink you, you're never gonna be able to make it back, okay? Or it's gonna be even harder. And then 5, I'm building for the long term, okay? This is a 30-year game. It's buy and hold. I don't really, for most of my houses that I have right now, financing-wise, it won't really matter to me if it'd be nice if I could refi in a few years for 1%. That'd be great. But I don't really, I'm okay if it doesn't, okay? I have reserves. I don't have 10 years at 50% of reserves, I wish. Or 50% vacancy for 10 years. I don't have that kind of reserves, but I have a lot of equity, so I'm building for the long term. And I think this, like I said, if I can get you guys to do this, somebody grabbed me by the back of the neck at one point and told me to stop selling everything and stop being a flipper, okay? I'm telling you now, like this is the game, the ultimate game is getting to that point. And then from there, if you want to dip your toes into lending and play that game, great, okay? But the idea here is not to be stuck in flip mode, having to flip every single time and just stack money, okay? You don't want to be gambling for too long. At some point, you want to take some off the table and keep a nest egg over here, okay? So which is why I'm doing this class. It's providing housing in California, and it's a landlord strategy for the future. I'm going to go through everything that I do, my systems and software, my advertising for tenants, my first contact, how I weed through everybody, the initial screening of when they first get in to talk to me and how they get to see the house from the very beginning, and how I automate those showings. I actually do not meet my tenants until they're ready to sign the lease. I don't even talk to them anymore. Okay? I don't even know what their voice sounds like. By the time they're ready to sign the lease, they have made it through what's that? The gauntlet of my system to make sure that they're worthy to take care of my house. Okay? The criteria to do all that, the application, how I lease, how I take my tenants out to breakfast or lunch, and that's where I get to meet them. And if I don't like them at that point, or they say something that I don't like, I walk away and they pay for breakfast. No, I'm just kidding. I haven't done that yet. How the move-in, I haven't walked away yet. Although I don't want to get into that. How I do the move-in inspections, how I collect rent, everything's automated, how they pay late fees, my pet policies, the move-out inspections, how I handle getting them back security deposits, all of that, and then staying compliant in California with landlord, the changes and stuff like that. So, like one of the things that's coming down the pipe is that we're gonna have to start giving people air conditioning as a requirement. They changed the law this year that you have to provide fridges. So you want to make sure you're staying in compliance with that stuff. And so both. This year they added fridges. Next year they're adding air conditioning. So staying compliant with California. It is going to be March 21st at 9 a.m. We're going to go until 5. We're going to go a little bit later this one. There's going to be a lot to cover. So March 21st, 9 to 5, right here. For you builders, you don't have to worry about it. For everybody else, get here early. If you don't get a seat, you'll have to listen from your car in the parking lot. So we'll see you then. That's all I got for tonight, everybody. Thank you.